Hi everyone, thank you for attending our webinar today on securing the Internet of Things. We're very excited to have you all here. Before we begin, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. This webinar session is being recorded, so it will be available for download on our website after the webinar, and all attendees will also be emailed a copy of the webinar as well as a copy of the slides. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the question box, and we will be answering all questions at the end. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce our presenter for today. This is Mustafa Taharian. He is our lead SOC analyst here at TruShield. He is responsible for heading up our Security Operations Center here at our headquarters in Virginia.
Thank you. As Robin mentioned, I'm Mustafa Taharian. I am here in the SOC over in the Dulles, Virginia location we have here. My certifications include Security Plus, experience in managing our SOC operations in this SOC, as well as working closely with our clients throughout the deployment phase, as well as with our analysts that are part of our CSM service in monitoring, identifying threats, alerting our clients, as well as incident response. Definitely encourage you all to reach out to me with any questions you have about any cybersecurity related content, as well as connect with me on LinkedIn. I've included my contact information here for you, both on LinkedIn as well as my email address. So before we get started, I'm just going to give you guys some information about TruShield if you haven't heard about us already. We are a global cybersecurity company solely doing security out of the Washington, D.C. area. We provide high-quality concierge security services such as managed security services, risk assessment services, which can include penetration testing, vulnerability assessments, help with threat protection, incident management, security consulting, and security architecture. We're experienced at building and deploying large-scale solutions. We've worked with government agencies, ministries, different stock and commodity exchanges, financial institutions such as credit unions, banks, different law firms, as well as security for critical national infrastructure such as SCADA and ICS environments. So on today's agenda, we're going to be going over what the Internet of Things really is. We'll go into the history of the Internet of Things, some of the contributing factors to it becoming more popular in more recent years. We'll talk about the impact on our personal lives. We'll talk about the impact and benefits in our business life as well. Of course, we'll also address the price of all this convenience. There's a lot that we're gaining from this, but there's also some high risks involved as well. So we'll start out with kind of just defining what the Internet of Things is. It's a very popular buzzword that's in a lot of the tech blogs these days, kind of referencing a great definition I read by Tech Target. They basically say it's any man-made object that can be assigned an IP address and has the ability to transfer data over a network. You know, some great examples of this outside of the norm or outside of what we normally would consider the Internet of Things could be, for instance, a heart monitor implant. You know, cars with sensors on it that are also hooking into GPS. A biochip that's within a farm animal. You know, another great example in the commercial world would be light bulbs, smart bulbs that are out there now that can actually tell you when the bulb is out. This can definitely come into play in a larger industrial facility where you literally have 10,000 bulbs. This allows for considerable cost savings and efficiency, which is a lot of what the Internet of Things is taking existing products and technology and adding that connectivity, and then from that gaining some pretty awesome benefits and additional functionality. So to kind of talk about the history of the Internet of Things, you know, we've heard a lot about it recently, but it really does date back over 30 years. The actual first recorded occurrence would be over at Carnegie Mellon University. There were some computer science grads whose classrooms and lab environments were considerably far from the soda machine, and all those late nights wanting to program, they wanted to make sure that they have enough soda on tap. So one of the ways to kind of be able to gauge this without having to go walk all the way down to the machine was actually connecting it to their network and building in the functionality to be able to see whether or not there were any cans or if the dispenser needed to be replenished. Of course, this has been accelerated a lot in recent years due to lots of advancements, particularly within battery technology. The batteries are a lot smaller and storing a lot more energy now. Energy efficiency within chipsets is allowing a lot of this. The cost of chipsets going down allows us to slap on a microchip basically on any type of device now without it actually impacting the cost of production by much. Also, advancements in mobility, GPS, and cellular technologies have also contributed to this. There's been further traction as well as we go through the migration of switching over as far as IP addressing is concerned from IPv4 to IPv6. With IPv4, there was a concern because there was a limited number of IP addresses available. So obviously the priority would be to use these addresses for servers and computers and not necessarily just to give a device an additional function. Now that you have IPv6, you have what they describe as more IP addresses than there are stars in the night sky available. So this allows for an almost unlimited number of IP addresses. So incorporating this technology is now made possible even in the simplest of devices. So from there, we can talk about the impact on our lives. How does this affect us? These devices are now connected to our homes, our home networks, our devices, our cellular phones. We live in a day and age where everyone is kind of tethered to their cell phones, and that, of course, then can be connected to different networks, such as our home networks as well as our work networks. And these devices are connected 24/7, 365, when we're awake, when we're asleep. Gathering information, doing different things for us, automating a lot of different functions for us. I can share some examples with you. For example, the modern-day security system nowadays is going to be connected to your wireless router. This gives it some great capabilities that you're able to take use of via an app. The ability to actually track when you leave the house. So if you forget to set your alarm, it will actually go and set the alarm for you. Being able to then have connectivity to the thermostat. For example, your Nest, the thermostats that are out there, you're able to program it so that when you leave the home, your air conditioning or your heating turns off, and as soon as you enter the home or even come within close vicinity to it, it can start that system up. Same thing will go with the latest garage door openers, can also have this additional connectivity where they're all taking use of the internet connection in your home, as well as different technologies such as GPS. Other functionality is lighting, being able to live stream cameras within your home. You have some great security benefits where if you have someone that's locked out or you need to let a neighbor in, you're on vacation, you want them to go feed your cat, you can actually make it where through the app you can open the doors and open points of entry within your home. Lots of great features, a lot of possibilities that didn't exist before. But at the same time, there is a considerable amount of risk that comes into play, and we can talk a bit more about that here shortly, that really comes with adding all these additional connectivity points and also giving these connectivity points control over things like the ability to disable your security system or the ability to gain entry in and out of your home. So the effect on the Internet of Things is very apparent in our personal lives. There's tons of examples that we can pull from for that, but one should also take note of the substantial impact on our business lives. There's substantial increase in return on investment when investing into these technologies that will also bring about time savings and increase in efficiency. To go and give you a good example of that, kind of going back to that LED bulb we spoke about earlier. Instead of having a dedicated employee, managing, for example, an environment, with 10,000 bulbs, that's really going to require one person to really dedicate their time and resources. And as a company, that's a salary, that's benefits, that's insurance that you're providing for that employee for something that can completely be managed with just a minimal investment in smarter bulbs. So definitely a lot of ways that it can affect your bottom line, as well as provide a lot of additional intelligence that didn't exist before. A great example of that is going to be with GPS and mobility-enabled vehicles or devices that are put on these vehicles that can allow an organization to monitor, deliveries of products that are taking place coast to coast. This allows them lots of valuable data. They're able to see the routes of the drivers, the habits of that driver, where are they stopping, what route is actually faster. It might be more miles, but for a couple of different factors, it might still be the more efficient route to take. This can all be translated into business decisions that are made that can, in that particular example, provide fuel savings, provide better work conditions for customers, as well. I'm sorry, not for customers, but for employees, as well as additional and better service for customers, all ultimately affecting your bottom line and allowing your business to thrive. From there, we can kind of talk about, we talked a lot about all these great things, these great conveniences and benefits. We can also spend some time here really discussing some of the risks, because there are some considerable risks involved. With all of these devices, they're all connecting to your network, they're all connecting to your router, they're all points of entry into your environment. And one really has to take a look at this and see, in certain scenarios, does the convenience really outweigh the increased vulnerability? A lot of that's also going to come down to, what network and what devices are on what particular network and how they can be compromised just by being connected to these Internet of Things devices. So, even with these great benefits and impacts on our lives, there are a significant number of vulnerabilities that come about from all of this. And really looking at this as different pivot points for that malicious actor, they can easily identify exploits within these different devices and work their way in from there, not only in taking control of that device, making it not function the way it's intended, or having it function a particular way with malicious intent, or even much worse than that, just gaining entry into that network. They can traverse their way into more sensitive assets. They can come in through your security system, but work their way into your actual laptop, into servers, into sensitive assets with personally identifiable information that, if leaked, can be very detrimental to your organization. A lot of these products that are coming out here that have this Internet of Things capability, to connect, a lot of these devices are coming to market very quickly. Manufacturers are not incorporating a lot of penetration testing when developing these products. Security is not really at the forefront. They're more worried about being the first one with the refrigerator that's connected to the Internet, rather than being the one that delayed or came out with a product, after their competitors. So this also will result in not proper hardening as far as these systems. So there's a lot of different ways that people can exploit them. And these systems are also going to not be as sophisticated as a computer. So there's not all of these different security controls and roles and rules and in place. Usually you're going to have it where anyone that has access to that system has full-blown access. So you want to really take a look at the vulnerabilities with these different devices, really see if the risk is worth it, and really be able to monitor this information and put security at the forefront, which really isn't the case with a lot of these Internet of Things devices. There are several, dozens of different vulnerability databases out there on the Internet. If you put in a lot of the major manufacturers, I'm not going to put anyone out there, but a lot of the ones that have these connected devices, you'll see for even the simplest devices, literally dozens of different ways, using very simple tools. This does not require any type of elaborate or sophisticated hacking. This is literally getting simple tools that are available all over the Internet that take advantage of these exploits. So what are some ways that we can, secure the Internet of Things? What are some best practices? So we here at TruShield have kind of tried to boil them down to the six most important, most critical ones that we're going to suggest there. Kind of going back to what we said earlier, establishing security from the beginning. Any business decisions that are being made, if you're going to use new technology, new providers, new service providers, looking at the security aspects. If you're working with a contractor, if you're working with a new vendor there, the data that they have access to, the tunnel that's being developed between your organization and theirs, being able to monitor the activity, the security of that, is always critical. A great example of this would be with organizations that have, in place BYOD. That's another big buzzword that's going on in the industry. Bring your own device. Substantial cost savings that can come about from this for organizations not having to worry about supplying these devices and monitoring these devices. But at the same time that one is putting something in place like this, one has to look at the security aspects of this. Those devices are not only going to be in your work environment, but your employees are going to take them home. So being able to not only have policies on how those devices are secure in your own environment, but also training your employees, doing security awareness training so they know that when they're not in front of that laptop, to make sure that it's locked, to make sure that it's logged out, to make sure that it's not made available to others that can take access of it for malicious intent. Going back to your outside providers, making sure whoever you're dealing with, doing business with, that they have comprehensive security in place, that they have the correct controls in place. If you're, for example, a lot of people are going towards cloud service providers. There's huge savings there too. You're not having to manage as much hardware. You're able to kind of dump that on a cloud provider. There's a lot of articles out there on the internet that talk about how not only can your data be mixed with other data in that cloud, but one also has to look at the security that they have in place. Is there a way that their lack of security could ultimately be something that your organization pays for? Very important thing to look at. Also, a defense in-depth strategy. There is no one, golden ticket to security. There are multiple things that have to be in play to have a truly secure environment. So, part of this is going to be hardware. You're going to want to have the correct firewalls. You want to have that all configured properly. You want to have additional security appliances, IPS, IDS in place, so that you can see if there are connections, if there are activity that's going on in your network that shouldn't be. You want to also couple that with policies in place as far as what your end users are able to do, what those devices are able to do, what ports they're able to connect to. All of it is very important so that there isn't anything that's unauthorized that's taking place, so that your employees aren't accessing malicious content that can ultimately contaminate your entire environment. And also continuously monitoring these devices is very key to all of this. A lot of what goes on, a lot of malicious activity, there's all types of advanced persistent threat reports out there that specifically talk about how a lot of the malicious actors out there, a lot of the hacking that takes place is happening during very key times that we are asleep, times that we're in traffic on our way to work, and times that we're going home. Obviously, if you're in a car, in traffic, you're not going to be able to monitor what's going on with your device. So having that 24/7 monitoring is very key, because you never know when it's going to take place. As well as patching. A lot of what goes on, a lot of what we see here on the internet in the latest compromises that have come out will usually involve patches that were out for 4 or 5 years, and just the organization didn't put that at the forefront of their security plan, and these very simple vulnerabilities were taken advantage of. And the same thing happens with these Internet of Things devices. Certain manufacturers going to spend the time and put together this device and all these cool features that come along with that connectivity. Over the first 3 months, 6 months, 9 months that that's in the market, that it's been mass produced, that people are toying around with it, they're going to discover some of these different vulnerabilities, and they're going to offer patches. A lot of times these devices, people forget that they're connected to the internet. They forget that there is a firmware, that there is software there that can be updated. And really keeping an eye on that and having a good plan as far as patch management is definitely key. There's certainly a lot of different things that one can do to really secure their environment, specifically in regards to the Internet of Things. These 6 are just a few examples that we have here at TruShield that we feel are the most critical and can provide the most benefits for you there.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mustafa. That was great, very informative. So now we'll see if we have any questions come in and just type your question in the question pane if you have one, and we'll have Mustafa answer them for you. Okay, so it looks like we don't actually have any questions coming in today, but if you think of any questions later on that you would like answered, please don't hesitate to contact us here at TruShield or contact Mustafa directly. So thank you all very much for attending our webinar today, and we hope you enjoyed it. And if you would like to get access to the webinar after the fact, it will be emailed to you. It will also be available for download on our website. So thank you all again.